Okay, so jumping ahead a bit, I have a cavity map. And what a cavity map is it's created from the normal map, and it's kind of just punching out the cavities, like the dark areas of your model, and like the edges of surfaces, these little white tips. And it's pretty good at sort of like punching out the form. Um, but I like to use it sparingly, which is another reason why I have this curves layer on top to sort of tone down the cavity a little bit. Without it, it really sort of punches out all the edges and all the crevices, and it doesn't look the best. Like there's always little white highlights everywhere, which isn't really what we're going for. I mean, if you look at a concept, there's not crazy white highlights all over it, so it's useful at sort of capturing some of the detail, but I think it definitely helps if you just keep it subtle and tone it down a bit, especially if you've got like a lot of really dark crevices. You get these sort of like solid black outlines along everything, which isn't the prettiest thing to have in your texture. So that's what that's doing there. And to create that cavity map, I am using CrazyBump, and all you have to do is just get your normal, sort of select it all, copy it, and come back here and paste normal map from clipboard. And then I just go to the specularity tab, enhance detail, I crank that up, and contrast, I sort of shift right down. And then you have that sort of nice, sort of softer look. Enhanced detail sort of just crispens things up a bit, and contrast sort of removes that very harsh nature of all the effect that it's giving. So I drop that down, just something light and soft. Brightness you can play with, but I find 50% is pretty good. It sort of keeps that neutral gray level where things aren't shifting too much. And then once you've got that, you can save it out and bring it back into Photoshop, and you're good to go. What else do we do in setup phase? I've got an alpha layer here because this guy, as you remember, has the ropes and the little things up here connecting to the moon. So they're the areas that we need to sort of cut out with an alpha map. And I've just gone in and quickly blackened out the areas that we want to cut out or remove. And it's kind of quick and dirty for now, but I'll polish it up a little bit later. And then I've just thrown a white layer behind that. And in something like Marmoset, Marmoset will actually read the alpha layer from your diffuse texture. So if I just open that up, so I've saved out my normal map and my diffuse texture as Tiger files that Marmoset's looking to at the moment. And where is it? Here we go. Yeah, what I've done is in my channels, I've just hit new layer and it creates an alpha layer. It'll just pop up straight away as soon as you click that button. And into that, I've pasted that alpha map that I painted back here. And when you save it, just make sure you save it as let's bring this layer up there. That way it retains the alpha layer. If you don't, you'll actually trim that out of the texture and you'll lose your alpha layer and things won't work. So if you're ever wondering why your alphas aren't showing, this is why. And then, yeah, when you actually bring this into your rendering app, it should cull out that alpha, which I will go over in a second. Okay, so that's the general basic setup of my PSD file before I get started. there's probably one more stage I will do that I haven't done yet, but I'll just run through in the class for you guys, and that's oh, come here. And that's setting up sort of selection sets. Okay. Okay, I can't resize that. Hang on a second. So the resolution's not letting me resize it. I'm just going to have to drag it off to the other monitor and resize it there. Okay, here we go. Okay, selection sets. Okay, I'll get back to that in a second. I'll quickly jump back to Marmoset. So basically what we have now is we have our finished model, it's UV'd, it's baked, we have our normal map texture, and we have a very initial sort of diffuse texture we can sort of look at and preview. So at this point, we have everything to sort of look at it in 3D, and right now, like I'll just quickly, at this point, I'd sort of like get everything into Marmoset or whatever 3D program you're using. Maybe it's Unreal or that's some sort of a different game engine, but right now it allows you to sort of like look at this thing in 3D and sort of get an initial impression of it, which is what we have here. Like we can see it in action. We don't have to wait until it's fully colored or anything. And this might let you sort of see some bake errors or things that aren't working. Maybe you have to rebake a few areas or tweak something in the model. It's a good step to sort of do just to check your model before you plow ahead with the whole texture process. And all I've done is fire up my Marmoset, go on File, Import, imported my model, which is shown up here. And then I've gone to normal map and imported the normal map TGA. I've had to flip the Y so it renders properly. And I've tweaked the gloss a little bit just so it's not super shiny. I've then thrown in my color map, Abito map, and specularity. I've just sort of toned this down just so it's not blown out, just for preview purposes. We'll do a proper specular map later on, but not PBR based. And then in transparency, in Marmoset toolbag, all I've done is selected cutout. Before it was set to none, and your model will come in looking like this, where it's not actually reading that alpha channel in the diffuse map. So all we're doing is just telling it to go to cutout, and it'll read that information and cut that out. If we're using something like alpha coverage, which is more soft, you can do dither, and I think that'll sort of give it a softer alpha, but we won't be using that in this. We're just using a simple 1-bit black and white alpha. So cutout is all we need. And we're good to go. So we've got our 3D model. We can sort of update this as we texture. We can sort of see how the colors are working in the 3D environment, how it's reacting to light. Something I like to do as well is as I'm creating my diffuse, I might even create like a really rough spec as well, just with like sort of quick and dirty rough values for the spec map and the gloss map, just to shift it closer to the final and give you a rough estimate of how things are looking in terms of material breakup and all that sort of thing in 3D, rather than just relying on this general specularity value that we have in Marmoset. It just lets you preview things and get to a final result a little bit quicker. But yeah, we're pretty much ready to begin texturing now.